Welcome. This is another session on the subject of network analysis of DC circuits. Program is BSc, subject is physics. This is for the third semester under paper 301 electricity and magnetism. The session will include a review of the Kirchhoff's current law and voltage law and methods based on Kirchhoff's laws. To start with, we have to understand some of the terms that are associated with the Kirchhoff law methods. Before that, we can look at the learning outcomes for the entire chapter itself. Once we complete this chapter, we should be able to state the Kirchhoff's laws, use the branch current, mesh current, nodal voltage methods for network analysis, learn about ideal and practical voltage and current sources, their interconversion, be able to state and prove the various network theorems such as Thevenin's theorem, Norton's theorem, superposition theorem and the reciprocity theorem. We should also be able to state and prove the maximum power transfer theorem and also understand the concept of duality. And ultimately, we will be solving problems on situations where one of these theorems may be easily applicable. As far as the current session is concerned, in the current session, the goal is to be able to understand the fundamentals of Kirchhoff's voltage and current laws, that is, understand the network elements such as branch, loop, mesh, node, etc. Then state and explain the Kirchhoff's voltage law and current law, and ultimately review the branch current and mesh current methods of solving electrical networks. To start with, we need to review the terms such as network, alternately circuit, node, mesh and loop as applied to electrical circuits. A network or a circuit, very often these two terms are interchangeably used, is a systematic interconnection of electrical elements, that is passive elements like the resistors, inductors and capacitors. In our course, of course, we are only concentrating on resistors. Such elements consume electrical energy, therefore they are known as passive elements. In addition, a circuit will have energy sources. Together, they are connected in such a way as to provide a closed conducting path, and usually the purpose is to achieve some work. In such a network, there will be points such as A and B in which more than two conductors meet. Two conductors have to meet if a closed conducting path has to be formed. But where two or more conductors meet, there is a possibility for currents to divide. So points such as A and B, where more than two conductors meet, they are known as nodes. Within this circuit that we have considered, there are portions such as the battery V1, the node A, the node B and V1 back. This is a closed conducting path which forms part of a larger network. We call such a portion which is part of a larger network, a smaller portion which is part of a larger network, as a mesh. Similarly, A, B, V2 back to A, this is also another closed conducting path which forms part of the larger circuit and therefore can be called as a mesh. Usually what happens, or in many a case, people consider more than one mesh together, and when such a thing happens, you will also see a situation where many nodes get involved. At each node there is a possibility for currents to divide. So when we consider more than one mesh together, there is a possibility for current division within, and such a arrangement is often called as a loop. You also have situations, you also have textbooks wherein the terms mesh and loop have been interchangeably used. Now we come to the Kirchhoff's current law. The Kirchhoff's current law states that in a network of conductors at any node, the algebraic sum of the currents is 0. So this brings us to a situation where we have to assign a direction for the currents. Here the statement is that at any node the algebraic sum of the currents is 0. So if we concentrate on the node, there will be some currents coming into the node, there will be some currents going out. Therefore, if we adopt the convention that currents coming into the node are positive and currents going out of the node are negative, then we can write for the network of conductors that I have taken, I1 flows in, I2 flows in, I3 flows in, all are taken with a positive sign. I4 is going out, I5 is going out, therefore those two currents are taken with a negative sign. So we can write I1 plus I2 minus plus I3 minus I4 minus I5 is equal to 0, or we can write I1 plus I2 plus I3 is equal to I4 plus I5. So the sum of the currents entering the node is equal to the sum of the currents leaving the node. When currents flow into the node, charge flows into it. When currents leave the node, charge flows out of it. The Kirchhoff's current law is essentially telling us that when currents are set up in a network at any node, there is neither creation nor destruction nor even accumulation of charge. Therefore, the Kirchhoff's current law can be simply taken as a second statement of the law of conservation of charge, an alternate statement for the law of conservation of charge. We next go on to the Kirchhoff's voltage law. Now what does the Kirchhoff's voltage law say? The Kirchhoff's voltage law says that in any electrical network within a mesh, the algebraic sum of the EMFs and the voltage drops is equal to 0. So this theorem or this result is talking about IR drops. It is also talking about EMFs within a given mesh. So what are these IR drops? When currents are set up in a circuit, the resistors oppose the flow of current. The battery does some work in overcoming the opposition offered by the resistors to the flow of current through them. The work that is done appears as a voltage drop across the individual resistors, and that is often called as the IR drop. So here there are two issues. One is the IR drops, the other is the sources of energy. IR drops, by the explanation that I have given, is clear that they are the consumers of energy in the mesh, and the sources that are present are essentially the suppliers of energy. If the statement says that the algebraic sum of the EMFs and voltage drops is equal to 0, it essentially means that when currents are set up in a circuit within a mesh, the energy that is supplied by the batteries is equal to the energy that is consumed by the components. Therefore, essentially what KVL is telling us is that when currents flow in a network within a mesh, the energy is conserved. So, essentially KVL, the Kirchhoff's voltage law, is an alternate statement of the law of conservation of charge. Now, as far as applying the result to a practical situation is concerned, we are now faced with the issue of assigning directions to the voltage drops. We adopt a simple principle that within a given mesh, we go in a direction of our choice, we traverse the mesh in a direction of our choice. Before we do so, we assign currents to the various branches of the circuit. What is a branch? A branch is a part of the electrical network within which the current flowing is the same. Here in this particular loop, as we can see, R1, R2, R3 are the three branches. In many a case, you will have several resistors forming a single branch. For example, if instead of the battery here, the 20 volt, if we had another resistor, then the two resistors would be in series between the points A and B. The same current would flow through them. Both of them would be referred to as a single branch. Although in many cases each component represents a branch, it is possible that several components together make a branch. That is one of the concepts that we have to keep in mind. So, to understand the KVL, we first adopt a sign convention. We assign first currents to each branch in a direction of our choice, keeping only the KCL in mind, which means to say not all currents can be going into the node, not all currents can be coming into the node. When we have done that, we have assigned the currents and we have decided on a direction of traverse. When we go through a component, if we encounter an increase in voltage, we will take it with a positive sign. If we encounter a decrease in voltage, then we will take it with a negative sign. Which means to say that through a component, when we are moving, when we traverse a loop or a mesh, for example, the I1 here is shown to be going in this direction. I am moving clockwise through the loop, so I will be moving in the same direction as the IR drop, same direction as the current. Therefore, that IR drop should be taken with a negative sign, because essentially current is expected to flow from higher potential points to lower potential points. Similarly, coming from A to B, I move in the direction of current, hence the voltage drop I3R3 is also negative. So, essentially, as far as IR drops are concerned, the convention is if the direction of traverse and the direction of current through a given component are the same, that IR drop is taken with a negative sign. If the direction of traverse through a component and the direction of assigned current through the component are opposite, then such IR drop is taken with a positive sign. Now, as far as EMFs are concerned, as we go through a loop in a direction of our choice, if we move from the positive pole of the cell to the negative, it's a drop in voltage, hence taken minus. If on the other hand, we pass through the cell from its negative pole to the positive, then it represents an increase in voltage, so we will be taking it with a negative sign. So, now we can try and apply the convention that we have developed to the given mesh here. There are two meshes marked 1 and 2. I have assigned the currents I1 through R1, I3 through R3, I2 through R2. Now, if we consider the first mesh formed by V1, R1, AB, back to V1. This becomes the closed conducting path. So, according to the convention, I am going clockwise. The current I1 is also in the same direction going through the component R1. So, as we traverse from the battery through the resistor to the point A, we are moving in the same direction as the assigned direction of current. So, that voltage drop I1 R1 is negative. Similarly, I pass through the resistor R3 from A to B in the same direction as the direction of current assigned. Therefore, that voltage drop I3 R3 is also negative. Then from B we move towards the battery V1. We pass through the battery from its negative pole to the positive. It's an increase in voltage, so taken with a positive sign. So as far as the mesh 1 is concerned, the equation will be V1 minus I1 R1 minus I3 R3 is equal to 0. Similarly, if we apply the KVL equation to the mesh 2, then I have deliberately taken the direction of traverse here to be anti-clockwise. So, if we go, let us for example take it as going from B through V2 and A, coming back to B, B, V2, A, B. Then for that mesh, we can say as we go from B to A through the battery, we go from its negative pole to the positive. That represents an increase in voltage. So V2 is taken with a positive sign. As far as then going from the source to the resistor R2 is concerned, we go in the same direction as the assigned direction of current I2. So that voltage drop I2 R2 is minus. Then as we come from A to B, we are again falling through a potential. Potential at A is higher than potential at B because of the assigned direction of current that we have shown. So that voltage drop is also minus I3 R3. So V2 minus I2 R2 minus I3 R3 is equal to 0 is the mesh equation for the second mesh. Now to get the values of currents I2, I1, I3 etc., we can solve the network equations by any method that is known to us. In this case, there are two equations and there are three variables. We have nothing to worry about because not all currents are independent. As you can see from the diagram, the current I3 is made up of the current I1 and the current I2. Both I1 and I2 flow into I3. Therefore, I3 can be represented as I1 plus I2. Therefore, ultimately there will be two mesh equations in two variables. So, each variable we can uniquely find out the value of that particular term. To solve electrical networks, and when we go ahead and prove the network theorems, we will be making use of the KVL and KCL to first establish the result and then establish the same result using any given network theorem. So, the methods of using KCL and KVL to solve networks we should become familiar with. So, first we establish the procedure for the branch current method. In the branch current method, we assign a current to each branch of the network. First, we assign the currents to every branch of the network, taking KCL into account. Secondly, we choose the direction of traverse. Then, according to the convention that we have adopted, we write out the KVL equations. Then, we get as many equations as there are independent variables. The equations can be solved by any known method, and once the currents are obtained, voltage drops across individual components power in them, whatever else we want to calculate, we can calculate using the relevant formulae. I have just taken the opportunity to also illustrate the method by means of the example that I have taken. In addition to R1, R2, R3, I have also given some sample values for these resistors. Therefore, if we apply the KVL and adopt the branch current method to the mesh 1, we will have the equation. First, I am going clockwise through the resistor R1. I1 R1 is the voltage drop. The corresponding number is 10. So, minus 10 I1. I am then coming from A to B through the resistor R3. So, minus 40 into R3 can be written as I1 plus I2 straight away. So, minus 40 into I1 plus I2. Then I go through the cell from its negative pole to the positive. So, plus 10 is equal to 0. This is the KVL equation for mesh 1. Similarly, for mesh 2, we can write minus 20 I1 minus 40 into I1 plus I2 plus 20 is equal to 0. So, if we collect the terms, then we get the equation 50 I1 plus 40 I2 is equal to minus 10. Therefore, for the second mesh, 40 I1 minus 60 I2 is equal to minus 20. Now, if we eliminate I1 from these two equations, we multiply equation 3 by 4 and equation 4 by 5 to end up with 200 I1 plus 160 I2 is equal to 40. 200 I1 plus 300 I2 is equal to 100. On solving, we get I2 is equal to 3 by 7th of an ampere. Now, if we substitute the 3 by 7, the value for I2, it turns out that I1 will be minus 1 by 7. Therefore, the current I3 will now become I1 plus I2, which is 3 by 7 minus 1 by 7. So, that's equal to 2 by 7. So, we have adopted the branch current method, gone through the protocol for solving the network, and also we have taken a typical example. Now, we can look at the mesh current method. Now, the first question is, why mesh current method? As you can see, if the number of branches or the number of meshes itself in a network becomes more in number, as the number increases, as more components are put in a network, assigning a current to each one of them, writing out the equations and solving becomes a laborious process. So, we adopt a method wherein instead of assigning a current to each branch of the network, we simply assign a current to an entire mesh. Once we assign a current to an entire mesh, we adopt the convention that all voltage drops produced in a given mesh by a current which belongs to it will be positive. All voltage drops produced in a given mesh by a current which belongs to an adjacent mesh will be taken as negative. As far as IR drops are concerned, this is the convention. As far as EMFs are concerned, we adopt the same convention as before. If you go through a battery from its negative pole to the positive, the EMF is positive. If we go through a battery from its positive pole to the negative, that EMF is taken with a negative sign. So now, the essential difference here is, instead of assigning a current to each branch, we assign a current to a given mesh, and also adopt the convention that all voltage drops produced in a given mesh by a current which belongs to it are positive. All such voltage drops produced in a given mesh by a current which belongs to an adjacent mesh, they will be taken as negative. Having adopted this convention, how do we solve for an electrical network? Here, the same circuit I have taken. Instead of assigning I1, I2, I3, I have retained I have not even retained, that is fine. So I have retained those branch currents, but ignore them. I will be only talking about I1 for this branch, this mesh rather, and I2 for the other mesh. Once I do this, we can go ahead and write out the KVL equations. I1 is the current which belongs to the mesh 1. I1 into 10 is 10 I1. I1 into 40 is 40 I1. Together it gives you 50 I1. In addition, in the resistor R3, there is also a voltage drop produced by the current which belongs to the adjoining mesh, and that voltage drop is 40 I2, that is taken with a negative sign. Going through the cell, I go from its negative pole to the positive. So 50 I1 minus 40 I2 plus 10 would be 0, or 50 I1 minus 40 I2 would be equal to minus 10. Similarly, if we apply the mesh current method to the second mesh, 20 I2 plus 40 I2, together 60 I2, that will be the voltage drop produced in the second mesh by a current which belongs to it, which is I2. In this mesh, another voltage drop 40 I1 is produced by the current I1 which belongs to the adjoining mesh, so that is taken with a minus sign. So minus 40 I1 plus 60 I2 is equal to 20. We know how this simultaneous equation pair can be solved. Multiply equation 10 by 5 and 9 by 4. We end up with the same numbers as earlier. 200 I1 minus 160 I2 is equal to 40. Minus 200 I1 plus 300 I2 is equal to 100. Whereupon on solving we get I2 to be equal to 3 by 7 ampere. Substituting the value of I2 as 3 by 7 in any one of the previous equations, we can see that I1 becomes minus 1 by 7th of an ampere. The current I3 will be calculated simply knowing the values of I1 and I2. Thus far in this session we have looked at the basic definitions of some of the terms associated with Kirchhoff's laws, the branch, the mesh, the loop, the node, etc. Then we have stated and understood the Kirchhoff's voltage law and the Kirchhoff's current law. We have also looked at the branch current and mesh current methods of circuit analysis. Having done this much, we can also look at a few MCQs. The Kirchhoff's current law is an useful result to be used sparingly. Another statement of the law of conservation of charge. D, all of these. The accurate answer, the most appropriate answer is C. It is another statement of the law of conservation of charge. Second question, KVL is an alternate statement of the law of conservation of dash. It is nothing but the law of conservation of energy. Within a given mesh, currents can, within a given mesh, from the choices that are given, currents cannot divide. I have brought in two more questions which actually don't exactly belong to this particular topics but are an essential part when we solve networks. So, the equivalent resistance of n resistances of value R connected in parallel is, this is the first such question. If n resistors of value R are connected in parallel, then the effective becomes 1 by Rp, that is equal to 1 by R plus 1 by R plus 1 by R up to n terms. So that will be n by R. The reciprocal would give you the Rp, which is simply R by N. So, choice B is the correct answer. The next question is, a network of resistors in parallel is a voltage divider, a circuit, a current divider, none of these. The best answer here is a current divider. Why? In a parallel combination of resistors, the main current I supplied by the battery splits into different branch currents along each branch. We can also add another question here about the voltage divider. If you consider a combination of resistors in series, it will become a voltage divider circuit because a single battery voltage applied across a series combination of resistors provides us with as many different voltage drops as there are resistors connected in that particular combination. I have two mentions to make here, two things to mention. Some of these questions I have brought in with a view to helping you face the final examination. When you do a session and immediately look at these questions, they appear very simple, but when faced with these questions along with a set of questions from other topics, some of these simple things may look confusing. That is one thing. Secondly, as I told you, two of them repeatedly appear whenever you solve electrical networks. They are also important as far as some competitive exams are concerned. So, some 5 simple questions I have brought in here. Before we conclude, we can also look at suggestions for further reading. Some of the resources that you can tap into for further study and reference are Electrical Networks by B.L. Teresa, Introductory Circuit Analysis by R.L. Boylestad, several internet-based sources, a large number of them are actually available. Then from the set of books that are specifically written for the third semester of our syllabus, there are several books. I have mentioned one such here, Omkar Publications, BSc, Physics, Electricity and Magnetism for third semester. Then Resnick and Halliday, Principles of Physics, 10th edition. The last book is an excellent reference book for any physics student at any level. With this, we come to the end of this session. Until we meet again, bye and thanks for listening. Thank you very much.